Hello, everybody. Welcome to the North End. This is the Sunday Roast.
This is the North End. This is the North End.
Welcome to the North End YouTube channel. I'm here with Azaz, Connie, and JP. Sorry, JP. Let me get you in there.
There we go.
JP California.
The timing was a little off.
JP California. We can't
JP
forget.
California. Sorry. I got to say the whole thing.
Tank tops and the weather. It's all there
Um,
today.
It's all there. Let's go around the horn. Azaz, how are you, brother?
Very good. Perfect start to the season, which we'll get into. Not getting too ahead of myself, but yeah,
Good result for you
but
today.
definitely. But yeah, good. So happy football's back, and happy to be happy that we're all back together as well.
Yeah, it's nice. It's good to have Connie here. We haven't seen him in a while, and of course, JP's a standard. He's with us every week. But JP, how are you? JP California, sir. How are you, sir?
I'm doing all right. It was a warm one today. I took a nice motorcycle ride by the beach. Just hit PCH the whole way up, and a little bummed about my villa, but you know what? Overall, I'm pretty optimistic.
We'll
Nice.
chat about all of this, boys. We'll get
Yeah,
into
we'll get
all
into
the
the
games.
scoreline. Connie, you're a sight for sore eyes, brother. Good to see you again. It's been a bit.
Well, you're right. I missed last week's show, and that was bad on me. But I'll have it be known that I've had two shows, two specials, Man United ones with Paul. So when we talk about content, we like to attack Connie, which is typically fair. It's typically fair and accurate.
You
But
could say
I'm gonna.
There's no attack,
I'm
Connie. We
gonna-
just miss you, buddy. That's all it
I
is.
miss
It's
you guys
just-
too. I'm gonna lament on what is as I'm really not necessarily like for my team. I mean, we're all excited for our own. I'm really shocked by how ready and pumped I was for the Prem to come back. I wasn't a big Euros guy. I enjoyed it. I fucking love the Premier League.
It's tough
And
when you don't have a team in
I'm-
it, right?
Man, the weekend comes I got like 4 hours sleep last night because I was out doing a thing, but I was like, I'm getting up for that Chelsea game, and I was fired up about it. I was like, I'm excited to get up and watch it. It was just I'm happy the Prem is back. I'm excited, and this is
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah, it was a good weekend, man. There's a lot of good games to talk
Oh, yeah.
about. We can get into it. Let's start with your team right off the.
Woo!
You probably not the best thing just for you to start on, but
Wow,
Brighton at the death, really 95th minute, score a winner to beat Man United. I think that's the 6th time in a row that you've been beaten by
Yeah.
Brighton. What bogey team? What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah.
What's going on there?
I don't support the bogey team thing as much, even though it's kind of true. But you got to think. I think in our group chat, Azaz nailed it. That was like a very even football match. But
It
I
was, yeah.
like if I were to like just make a broad statement, when you leave 3 guys open back posts in the final minutes of the game, and again, I love my team, but you probably deserve to get scored against, right? Like if we're gonna be honest, like I think the one thing that we could all do a little bit better is take ourselves out of the I support this team and be transparent and fair. You leave if you get that defensively shambolic, you deserve it. So in a weird way, happy for Brighton. Yes, United have a long way to go. I do think there's positive things happening there. They haven't played a top team. That'll be next week, and I think that maybe will be the eye opener where some of the holes. I'm not certain or sold on a couple of players against better opposition. I think things are incrementally getting better. I think it was widely documented on this show and in general. I'm not a Ten Hag guy, and I don't think I ever will be. I don't think he is the guy. But like I'm also not like real big on Bruno and Cast. Like I'm very worried about Liverpool. But I thought we're playing better. But where are we going to go here? I don't know. So some positives, but ultimately you come away with no points. Brighton's a tough place to play, but
Well,
I don't
speaking
know.
of not being into Ten Hag, as what are your thoughts on the game? I figured you'd probably have a strong opinion about it.
Yeah, so firstly, I did watch the whole show that Connie and Paul did yesterday. So
Good for you.
bravo
I
for that.
haven't even put in any of
Yeah.
it. So.
So it's on our live tab on YouTube. Do watch it. It's a great discussion because you two and then JP California and Luke are both the two groups that we have that have 2 people from the same team. Not much to say, to be honest. Like, I feel like I was obviously harsh last week's roast, and like I don't need to be any harsher or any different. Like, my opinion is what it is. It's not as personal as it sometimes sounds. It's really not. It suits me as a Liverpool fan to have Ten Hag as the United coach, so
Yeah.
I'm trying to be as objective as possible because I don't even like. Why would I want him to leave and them to get a proper coach? Because one day it's gonna click. Like you can't keep Man United down forever. Like one day it's gonna click. So the longer they keep Ten Hag, the further it is. To me, I'm not necessarily seeing the same improvement that other people are. Partly because even I've such a open mind at the moment on Liverpool, because we're new coach, new regime, and 2 games into it, I can kind of see what we're building towards. I don't see it. Like it just is what it
got
is,
to
you know.
admit,
Like
some good signs.
yeah.
Like Mazraoui looks
Yeah,
good
yeah,
again.
definitely.
I think
Yeah.
like if you look
Yeah.
at both of the goals, it's Maguire going to sleep, unacceptable, and then the final one. Outside of that, it's a fair game, and I think that's
Sure.
probably where the problem is. Because if you're
Yeah,
a better upper echelon team, it shouldn't be an equal game against Brighton. Like if that's a Liverpool,
Yeah.
City, maybe even a Spurs, or you dominate more. And I think the big problem with United, and it's not going away, is either the final ball or when they're in front. I know Ahmad scored, but there was 2 other times where he could have put it across. Like the final third, even with all of the new signings, and I think Ugarte is going to help against the better teams if
Of
that
course.
does come. But
Yeah.
I think we talk about it in our group chat, not just about United. We talk about it Chelsea. If you can't get into the final third and finish, you're not going to be a top 4, top 6.
No.
And if you
No.
want to talk about everything about United, because they are building up a little bit better, and that's where I talk about the build-up looks better. But as soon as they get across that halfway line, it's nowhere near good enough. And I think that's the problem. And
They look a little bit like out of ideas in a way.
Yeah,
kind of
and I don't want to get into it because I want to talk about all the other results, but I'm like not in the United fan base, and this will be the last thing we can move on. I think there's this like Bruno Fernandes is put up on this pedestal, and I don't look at him up there, and I'll leave it at that. And I think there's some things that need to change in order for them to get better. But a tough result could have gone either way. We didn't even talk about the offside goal, like that was whatever. But at the end of the day, good teams go there and get those 3 points. I don't know what the season's going to be like, but that seemed a little bit about what we're all used to from United.
Yeah,
right?
that's
we
what
could
I was
all
gonna say.
agree, right?
I haven't seen a heck of a lot that's different from last season. It feels like an
The
extension of
build-up
it,
is
but it does
better,
take for a bit for new players to bet in too. So you can't really like assume right away, especially since they're recent. But JP, before we move on to the next game, what anything to add to the Man U?
I'm a little bit of the opinion that Ten Hag is struggling to get the players he wants. And therefore, he's falling back on some guys, and some of them are working out, some of them are not. But I also see him as like a trainer, but he doesn't ingrain a philosophy.
Every signing we have is from Ajax, is a former player of his. Of course, it seems like he is getting his fucking players.
Yeah, he's getting some of them. He's getting all the old guys from from his home country, but I just don't see. Like, I don't see him ingraining himself. Like you see Pep and Pep's teams look a certain way, and Arteta's team kind of resembles what you imagine his philosophy to be. And like, Klopp has his style, and you could see it. And then when he came in, you could tell over 6 months it became it. Unai Emery came in and he changed Villa from the get-go. We got the win against you guys, and it was a whole different style. I don't know what Ten Hag's philosophy is. I don't know. There's a lot of questions about him that remain unanswered, so I want him to stay as long as possible.
You're in the Azaz camp.
I'll be there forever.
Well, let's get into the next game. We got Palace hosting West Ham. West Ham winning 2-0. Good start to the season for them. I've only seen the highlights of this game. Anybody here have a good thought about what they saw?
I watched it. I watched a lot, and they were value for it. I think up until then, it was like kind of like a boring game. But Souček goal was good, and on the last half an hour, it's one of those games where they were the better team in the end. They got the goals. I'm really not sure about Crystal Palace this year. I think losing Olise I think him and Eze really just drove that offense last year, especially Olise. I know he was injured a lot, but they were a value for the 3 points, in my opinion, from what I saw.
Did you catch it?
I just saw the extended highlights. I feel like Crystal Palace, it just looked like they had possession for the sake of it, and the directness all came from West Ham. So, pick your poison. I'd rather take, especially at that point in the table, I'd rather take the points, have the more shots on goal and stuff than 60-65% possession, whatever it was. So I kind of get what Glasner, the coach for Palace, is trying to do. But ultimately, I just agree with Connie, which is I don't know if we've seen in a generation Palace have a moment like they could have had right now, and they're starting to like already sell a couple of pieces.
It's gone.
If I was
Yeah.
Palace right now, I know we've got our Palace fan in our ecosystem. I would love to get him on because it just feels a little bit hopeless at the moment. Like if you're going to have one team like this in a generation, at least keep them together for one season.
Try
Do you know
to,
what
yeah.
I mean? Like,
especially
yeah,
with that
try
manager, like
to.
Glasner's
Yeah.
a good manager, and you could
Yeah.
tell when he came in the difference in the way they played, and you could
Yeah.
see, okay, if they can keep their players and they can build on that, you're going to see a Palace side that's going to start to compete in the. I don't think they've ever finished in the top 10 of the Premier League. So that this would have been potentially the first season that they would have done that. So, and again, that like it sounds like, oh wow, that's it, that's the milestone, but that's a milestone. Like if you can start to break into that top 10, then you can start to keep yourself there. And Villa have gone through that, obviously going down and coming up. So JP is probably aware of what that means to get into the top 10 and then just stay in there and obviously then get to fourth. So that's what I mean. So it's sort of like an escalation that the potential's there for, but just, I don't know, maybe it's ownership. Their ownership just seems to want to cash in on the big players when they get the opportunity to.
The ownership for Crystal Palace doesn't have money, right? They're local boys, they're millionaires in their own right.
Yeah.
But they're not 500 million,
they're not billionaires.
million.
I think
These
it's
guys are
billionaires that
like
spend
10
the
or
money.
20 million, and that's it. They are a self-sustaining club. They might have some debt, locked away, but they're in the end, every player for them has a price, and if they can stay if they can get 9th, 8th spot, that'd be great. But if they can stay 15th to 9th consistently season after season from where Crystal Palace were 20 years ago, they are killing it. Like that's it. Like I think that's kind of their ceiling, and I think it's hard because
there you
we got a Liverpool fan, we got a United fan, but like knowing that this is a team that's never going to be that. They don't have the funds. We have to maybe reassess what our expectations for them are.
I just think it's the expectations of a Premier League team. Like if you get to the Premier League, your goal should be to try to finish as high as possible, rather than just
for all of them,
just stay there. I'm not saying that that's the case. I get it that there's some teams it's just make as much money as you can, do what you can while you're there, and then you move on. But I even think just from
right.
Yeah,
before we move on from Palace, whatever happened to the Mark Cahill rumors about was him and Newcastle were strongly linked, and then they made him the captain. Is he staying now? Have you guys saw anything or heard anything?
I think he's staying.
I think he is as well, but why? I want to get the fuck out of there, man.
I think I would probably want to leave as well, but I think it's probably just a financial situation. Like Newcastle weren't going to pay the money that Palace were going to pay.
$70 million.
Yeah, it was a large fee for a good defender who was he was one of the better defenders in the Euros for England. So he played very well when he came in and did a job. So there's a good player there, but I mean,
I think he'll probably go next summer. There's probably a gentleman's agreement with him in the club of hey, stay this year, solidify us.
Yeah, he's still
sell
young.
You next year. We promise we can't sell so many stars in one window. But if you stay and we stay in the Premier League, we will sell you if we get a price over 50 million, and then we will reinvest. And it's probably some deal like that.
Okay, so we haven't said one thing about West Ham. What do you guys think about West Ham? What are your expectations for West Ham this year? All everybody.
8th, 10th, right in there.
Where I have them.
We just played them. They were all right. They're a decent team, but they're not going to be challenging top 4. And honestly, I don't think they're going to be top 6 even. I don't see them.
They've done well in the market, but I just feel like it's a coaching issue more than it is anything else.
I don't think they're not it. They're not it.
I don't think Michael Antonio up front is the guy. I don't know about you guys, but I see him doing a bit of a decline and Bowen seems to be the one that carries the offense. Paqueta's good. Kudus does it in spurts. You're waiting for him to be the guy. You watch him for half an hour. You're like, holy shit, this guy's amazing. And then you watch him the next week. You're like, dude, what happened to that guy?
Okay. Just average.
I want to say, I actually think that they might be a bit of a surprise package. I still think that they're going to be 7th or 8th. I don't think that there's a higher ceiling than that, but I think they might surprise a few people. So we just mentioned a few of them. So Kudus on his day can turn it on. we know how good Paqueta is. They already had Alvarez, Bowen, etc. They also got Fulkrug. So if they can get like a
Things
target
worked
man
out.
Sitch going with him, obviously did really well at Dortmund and also
Has he played yet?
played for Jip. No, he's been on the bench. I don't know if he's come on, but he hasn't started yet. And then they also got the kid from Leeds, Somerville, who a couple of Premier League teams. So I think that they've got like pieces, and like Lopetegui, I do rate him as a coach. Like I think Wolves is just a bit of a dead situation. I don't know if we'll talk about.
I haven't seen enough of him. I feel like they've been kind of like, and he's also relatively new, and so there's some time to build there.
Yeah.
Does Ward-Prowse have a knock? Why wouldn't he have played on the weekend? He must have some sort of injury because he wasn't in the starting lineup, and he should.
Yeah, I mean he's a fantastic player too, so that is a bit surprising. All right, well let's scoot on to the next one. We got Fulham v Leicester. Leicester dropping points again. Fulham 2-1. Fulham side, looking pretty good. They've done pretty well, I think, with some of their transfers in the window. What's his name from Arsenal? Looked really good. Scott
Smith Rowe.
Smith Rowe. Yeah, thank you. Got his first goal for the team. Yeah. Any thoughts on this? Anyone want to go for it?
I think I'm with Azaz. Like Azaz thinks that about West Ham. I think Fulham are going to shock a lot of teams and maybe fight for that 8 or 9.
There's more there because of the length of time the manager's been there and the systems in place. And I feel like, I agree. I think Fulham's more or will finish higher than West Ham.
Looks good. Iwobi looks good at Fulham right now, and I don't know how long that's going to last. But I watched the final 15
It's a different player, isn't he, than what he was at Everton?
I was like, who the fuck is this Iwobi? He looked dangerous on the left side. So I don't know. They played. I mean, we weren't great, but man, they definitely could have got something against us as well. I mean, I don't know how much that's saying, but they look organized.
He's been around for like a decade.
Yeah,
he was at Arsenal before, and
he
couldn't get in the first team at Arsenal.
That Nunez guy, their forward, he got quite a few goals.
Only
last
28.
year, so. I don't mind Fulham. They're easy on the eyes.
Yeah, they're good watch for sure.
What do you guys think about Leicester? I think bottom.
I think they're finishing bottom. I mean, the 1-1 draw on Monday flattered them considerably.
It did.
Like we had 70% possession. I think the XG was really high. It was just they were not a good side to play against. We
took one chance and you guys didn't finish.
And we didn't finish. We had about 7 or 8 that we should have put past them, and we did at least 3 or 4 of them. But anyways, I think they'll probably finish bottom of the table unless something happens in the window. They did bring in Oliver Skip from Spurs, who I think will solidify their midfield a little bit. Their midfield is it's Winks essentially, so it's Spurs' old midfield that they've got going. So I don't know if that's enough. I mean, those are 2 players that are good enough to be in the Premier League, but I'm not sure that they're going to turn a season around for a team like Leicester.
No, I think they're going to be in a relegation fight. I think we're probably all in agreement there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, what do we got next? We got Man City smashing up Ipswich. We got the robot does it again with another hat trick, and same old with City. Ridiculous. I mean, Ipswich getting a goal early to sort of seemingly make a game.
Ederson mistake. Ederson error.
It was an error, but I mean, still, they get a goal against City. I didn't expect them to even score. I don't think anybody predicting this had them putting anything in the net. So, but yeah, it's sort of unexpected. Any thoughts on this game?
Gundogan back.
JP, you got something you want to
say? We're just getting some people jumping in, so I'm like, I don't know. I think the Gunner here says Fulham won't finish higher than West Ham, but I'm kind of opposite him on that one. What match were we talking about? We were talking about who?
Oh, Man City.
Man City, bro. Get a grip.
Dude, is it really even fun anymore when we just know, they just lost Alvarez, they just lost this guy, they just lost this guy, they're going to stutter. They're going to get Gundogan back. And it's like, he was huge for them, and I think he's going to literally jump right back into the team. I think it's going to take him 3 weeks, and he's going to get in the goals, and then I think it's going to be over. I think he's going to be running through it again like he can, and I think Pep will. I honestly think Man City is going to win this title. I think Pep's going to retire after a 5-peat and step away, and then they're going to get dinged and drop down 2 leagues.
So, just my 2 cents on this is
that's going to be it.
So
I don't know. I'm over.
You keep cutting out. You keep cutting out. Azaz was halfway through a thought there.
I was gonna say. So, what I think about the Gundogan thing is we're in Ontario. If you're an Ontario government employee, you can do this like 4 years on, 1 year off kind of thing. That's what Gundogan's just done in Barcelona. He's just had
Yeah.
a year off in Barcelona,
Relaxing
and he's just
relaxing
going to
in
come
Spain.
back. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's just going to come back, and I
He's
agree it's
retarded.
going to be a little bit effortless. They also hit the bar twice yesterday.
No.
I don't think City were their best last season. Like, I actually think that there's a
They
gear
look
that
better
they
this
can go
season
up.
than they've started
Yeah.
this season better than
Yeah.
they started last one for sure.
Exactly. Savinho looks a great
He
signing.
so
Fortunately,
good.
very good. Yeah.
Yeah,
This is
and
what
then
they do. They sign these players that you're like, I'm not sure, and you're like, who the fuck is this guy? And like, he looks so good.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they literally have Bernardo and KDB behind Haaland this season. Because like
unreal.
Bernardo's popped up all over the place. He's even done a stint at left back
It's
a
like
couple of years
got a
ago.
free
But like
roll of
right, yeah, this season they're lining up with KDB and Bernardo right behind Haaland. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. Like
It is a joke.
they looked terrifying yesterday.
Is there a
And
new
I know
winger?
it's just Ipswich, but we played
Yeah.
Ipswich last week and they weren't rubbish. So like yeah, this is going to be an interesting one.
Connie, can you do me a favor and just not hide behind our logo?
See, I
This
go
happened-
this way.
This happened
Yeah.
on their show. This
Yeah.
happened on their show.
On
Yeah.
my screen,
Just
it's
stay
the
in the middle.
logo. The
Just
logo's
stay in the
over.
middle, Connie. You'll be
Logo's
fine.
over here.
Just stay in the
See,
middle.
I have a different view than you guys. How is this?
It's just perfect. Stay in the
Okay.
middle. You're good.
Well, I want to go. I want to go back to this.
Sure.
I do think Arsenal. I'm not sure if Liverpool, because this
No.
is the new manager.
Yeah, no.
I don't know. I don't know. Like they still look very good.
They look good, but they're a third place team. They're not. They're not going to challenge.
Arsenal are going to push them. Here's the thing I think about City. There's always a De Bruyne injury. The story of this game. I mean, not necessarily this game, but like we know what they're like without Rodri. Kovacic looks fantastic. Like it just JP's right. It's like, is it getting boring? You think, oh, maybe that guy will get injured. They're missing that guy, Alvaro. Nothing changes.
We're all desperate for
Nothing-
them to fail somehow.
We're all nothing changes. They just look fantastic.
It's Pep. Pep just needs to go. That's what it comes down to. Then maybe things will change.
getting ridiculous. Like if they win another one, are we all not just going to be like I don't care if you're like a Liverpool, Arsenal, or a United fan because we can't stay. But is the rest of the league not at this point like we've had enough, man? Like just switch it up a little bit. Like
Boring. Anyway, we've taled about him enough. That's how bored we
That
are with
new
him. So
winger
let's
they
move.
got, what is his name? Silvino?
they're
Yeah,
like
he
3
is,
minutes behind, bro.
He is incredible.
yeah. He's good. He's good. Very good. All right, we're moving on. City, they're going to win the league again. Sucks. All right.
Potentially.
So yeah, Southampton 0, Nottingham Forest 1. I watched a bit of this game. I was kind of flipping between games here, but any thoughts on this? And just a couple of
Gibbs
mid-table teams.
Better than
Yeah,
Nottingham
yeah.
Forest, belongs on a better team and should be on one next year. He's a nice, really nice number 10.
Who we talking about?
Gibbs
Gibbs
White.
White.
Oh, Gibbs
Scored
White.
the
Yeah, we were
goal.
chatting about him in the chat. Yeah,
Oh, good,
he's a
man.
wonderful player for sure. Yeah.
Like, I
I'd
think
love him
he's
first.
a top 7, top 6 player, like effortlessly. Like he's got all the tools and he's better than that team. And I think Forest are not bad. Southampton looked terrible. Like I think Forest should have won by a couple. This is a scrappy game. I watched the last 20 minutes of this. I tried to like go back in and watch a bunch of the games.
Yeah.
This was an ugly watch. Forest should have scored 2 or 3, and maybe Southampton. Like neither of them were good, but Forest's decent in attack. But it was a tough Premier League watch. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Is that what
The
you got to
one-
add?
I didn't watch the game. I've just seen the goal, but I did in my research on the drive home just now. I was looking at stats. This game's got some crazy stats going on because obviously we know that Nottingham Forest won, but this is one of those games where Southampton had 65% possession, but
Mhm.
Nottingham Forest had 23 shots to 8. So in
Wow,
their
man.
35
Wow.
So in their 35% possession, they generated 23 shots. And in the 65% possession, Southampton generated 5 shots. So like, again, just goes to show that unless you're really doing something with that possession, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Dude, in the last 20 minutes of the game, Forest must have countered 13 times and had
Wow.
like scoring chances. I was like, Southampton, what is happening here? It was, you know
Yeah.
what? And we saw it today, which fun to watch if you're like a neutral.
Mhm.
You're just like, this is kind of crazy, but entertaining.
Yeah, for
Wow.
sure. JP, anything to add, or are you're back now?
I'm back. I'm trying to fix the Wi-Fi issues.
Gotcha. All good.
I think Gibbs White is an amazing player.
Oh, yeah.
I think Forrest is going to struggle this year.
So do
I think they're really going to struggle. Like if they're getting a 1-0 win over Southampton, and I think they played last week, and I think they won 2, but I think it was another like lower team. Like I think 9-4 is really going to struggle. I see
Or Southampton. Southampton. I have both of these as bottom half table.
Yeah, I'd say bottom 5 for sure.
Yeah.
Both of them in the bottom
100%.
5. I still think Nottingham Forest have enough to finish above the 3 promoted teams.
I think so too.
I think they'll be right
teams.
on the cusp of it. I think Wolves will be there as well, and Everton. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. Next one we got Tottenham Hotspur 4, Everton 0. Fantastic result.
Did you enjoy that one, bro?
I loved it.
It
was nice. It was nice to see us finish, because obviously last game on Monday, we struggled to put the ball in the net. We had created enough chances, 70% possession again, dominating the game. But what I like to see about what I saw in this game was the change of formation, because everybody's saying Ange only has one way to play, which is utter nonsense. If you go back and look at all the teams he's managed, he always changes things. He changed the lineup. We had started with 2 attacking 10s in Kulusevski and Madison, and then in Bissouma in the pivot and in the 6. So it was a really attacking team, knowing Everton were going to sit deep and had to break them down. So I thought we did a really good job of it. Could have been far more. Everton, to be fair, are crap and have some injuries as well. But I'm curious what you guys think, because obviously I'm watching it with my Spurs goggles on. But Azaz, what was your thoughts on the performance here?
I thought Tottenham played well last week, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think so too. We just didn't finish.
Yeah. So I do rate Ange. I'm very much into entertaining attacking football, regardless of whether he switches it up or not. I think he plays the proper way, and obviously that can be a controversial statement to make sometimes, because people are like, winning football is the proper football, but only one team wins the league. And usually, right now, that's Man City anyway.
Yeah,
so
and I want to be entertained week in, week out. I want to be miserable watching Antonio Conte football like I did for a year and a half already.
Exactly. So, just a couple of other things from my observation of Tottenham. You're actually a lot deeper squad-wise than people might give you credit for. Again, just being a Liverpool fan with the ex-Everton thing, like I have a huge grey area around Richarlison, but whatever. He still scored a few goals last season, sorry. But just the genuine options you have in most places.
He's also to be fair, a backup now.
Pretty scary. Yeah.
Completely. So it's just depth in that position.
Then they can kind of fight it. Talk to me a little bit about this Odegaard guy, because I know nothing about him. I haven't seen him kick a ball.
He's a winger, came from Burnley, played a whole season with Burnley last season when they went down. Very attacking winger, likes to dribble. And I think he's completed or attempted 6 dribbles, completed 2, the most out of any winger on the pitch in the game. So he's got what Ange is looking for in a winger. It's like a player that's going to try to beat guys and make them really uncomfortable and cut the ball back in for whoever's in the box. So he's very much an Ange player. He's young. He's 19. So there's a lot of upside to him, and I think he fits in the squad. We're obviously planning for the future with a lot of these signings. Obviously, you can look at the the signings we brought in over the summer, right. But these are also players who can come off the bench, who can play in Europe, who can play in cup games. We've seen that's happened already this season, just against Leicester, when the kids came on and looked like they fit right into the squad. So it's a deep squad, but it's a young squad. But it's also, that means there's a lot of building over the next 2-3 seasons where we're just going to get better. So I don't think we're going to. I think maybe there's a chance for a cup in a Europa League run, because the Europa League is, maybe United is the other team in there that we'd worry about, but it looks like it's a pretty straightforward tournament for us, and so there's a chance for a trophy, and I think that's what Ange is going to be looking to try to do.
A couple of things about Spurs for me. I've always felt this over the last 5 years. When Sonny's going, Spurs are going, right?
100%. Yeah.
And it's nice. And to Azaz's point, it's been a while since you look down the bench and be like, oh, there's 3 or 4 options to come on here.
Yep.
And maybe make an impact, because I
can
think
change the game. I think that's the main thing. They're not just coming on and like filling in position. They're coming on with fresh
give
legs,
options.
fresh ideas, and
Yeah.
and in a skill set that's going to make us better.
So here's what I would say, which is very important, because I'm also an Ange fan. I like him a lot. And you could say this to a bunch of teams about last year, but just stay healthy and let's see what this manager can actually do with a healthy squad. And now with some guys that he can use. I think this year, if they can stay relatively healthy, he's got options. We can finally see what he's about in the Premier League in like a fair shot. Great result though.
Yeah, I mean we're rotating, like we were it's a rebuild. We're in the middle of a massive rebuild. We had to get rid of about 10, 15 players, which I think there's 7 or 8 went out this window and 4 or 5 went out the previous one. So we're basically cleared out. There's a couple left still on the books that are loaned out or whatever, but are kind of annoying. We can't get rid of. But
it's nice though when you can actually get rid of them though, right?
Fresh,
and actually
We've been trying. We've last season or last window we loaned out like 6 players because nobody wanted to buy them. You know, so you have all, and it's very United is a very similar club in that way, as far as the way they've sort of built up all these players that are on high wages and don't really play or are good enough. So you just get frustrated. JP, you look a little antsy there, buddy. I want to hear what you got to say about Spurs this season or this game.
I actually don't like Ange. His antics behind the mic. I think he's
antics.
I think he's kind of degrading to the interviewees and the attendees who are talking to him. But
what are you talking about? He jokes with them all the time.
He snaps at reporters. And there was the moment last year where he had his little meltdown. That's sure. But even like the other day, someone asked him like, "Oh, so and so talks," and the first thing was, "Oh, are you the coach? Are you picking the lineup?" And I was like, "Dude, just give it a rest."
I love that.
It feels like a little bit of a guy.
Yeah.
He's also chill when he delivers it.
Have
you ever seen Pep? Have you ever seen Pep at a press conference? Pep is a fucking prick. And
Pep's
I think you can admit this. Klopp's had a
way.
couple of moments where he was absolutely ruthless.
The thing is, I think
does
all
it with
the
a
managers
cool,
struggle
calm,
with it.
collected way, though. I like that about him, where he'll be calm with his like. Did you see what he said about Solanke? He's like, "How come nobody feels bad for the manager?" He's like, "I just bought this guy, and he can't. No one's giving me an armor."
He's always cracking good jokes.
Granted, like my perspective of him is very limited, so I see what I see online, and that's kind of it. I'm not going to look at his interviews for Tottenham stuff.
They're good.
But the style of play is beautiful. I'm just really wondering, can Tottenham players play his style for a full season? Because it kind of reminds me of Klopp's, where it's really energy draining. And we'll
have to see.
We
will
really know
come April. 7 or 8 games in to see what they're fully about.
I think to Connie's point, it's the depth of the squad that matters. The rotation will matter, and if he rotates well and the players he rotates with,
you can have
actually keep the standard as high as it needs to be kept, then I think we'll be okay. But I agree that that's
my only concern is like, can he keep them running, fine tuning?
That's why they're a young squad as well. That's why he's brought in such young players, because he wants younger players who, fitness wise, can handle.
Remember last year we look at them and we see their starting 11, and you look at the bench, and I genuinely remember like watching their games just before they kicked off, looking at their subs available. I'm like, I'm trying to be very honest here. You're like, I don't think there's one guy here who can come on and make this team better. Where if you look at 4 or 5 guys now, you're like, you know what? You could bring him in and he could change the game for the better in an attacking sense, defensive. Like, you need depth to compete.
Yeah, depth
for
is
that
everything, especially in the system. Especially in the system.
And health.
Yeah, for sure.
That's my only gripe. But I love the way they play. Like, there was that goal you guys scored where it was like 7 or 8 passes inside the opponent's box, and then they laid it off to a center mid who hit it. And
the Basuma goal was that was the one you're talking. It was a brilliant goal.
I think he's very, very. Everyone knows I'm no hiding how big of a Basuma fan. I was very upset when Spurs signed him.
Yeah, he was not good for us at the end of last season. He fell off after the red card and the suspensions and all the stuff that happened. He didn't play very well for a good.
He can be very, very good. I think he's important for you guys.
Oh, I agree. He's absolutely a must to be very good for us to succeed this season. We have players who can come in and behind him, and like I said, cup games, Europa League and stuff like that. But he needs to stay fit and he needs to stay focused, because when he is, after about 10 minutes into this game, he ran the game. He started out giving the ball away a couple times. He was a little sloppy with some passes, and then he scored. And then for the rest of the game, he was dominant.
He's a boss, man.
Yeah,
He's
and it
a
was really
treat
fun to watch.
when
Like,
he's
that's
on.
the Basuma that we want. Because if he's playing that way, and then the rest of the team can really, really, just do the job. So I'm obviously very pumped. I thought Spurs were incredible, and I'm hoping we can maintain it. And we'll see. We've got Newcastle next, and then we've got the Arsenal at the weekend after. So that's going to be going to tell us. That's going to tell us where we are, really. Because obviously, as much as I dislike them, they're very, very good. And it's tough. And speaking of Arsenal, and the next game, Aston Villa losing 0-2 to the Arsenal. We've got JP. I'm going to go with you first on this. Interesting game to watch. Arsenal, I think Villa second half for me were the better team until Arsenal scored, and then once Arsenal scored, they just dominated the game. But it was a pretty even match up until that point. What were your thoughts on it? How do you feel? I know you didn't watch it live. You're at your Lamaze classes.
I wasn't able to watch it live. I've watched most of the match now, and I have to say, like, if you lose a match and the other team were just better in the box, so be it. I thought we played great. If Arsenal is title contenders and that's the match, I'm stoked. Like, I'm really excited for Villa this season, because if they're title contenders and we had an open net chance, we had a free header that we sailed over, we had Raya made 2 great saves. Like, I'm really excited. I think Mr. Benner here.
Yep.
This might be Brett, my buddy. I don't know. He won't respond to my messages, but that might be Brett.
Is he the Arsenal fan you're saying?
That he is the Arsenal fan that I've been talking to.
Hey, Brett, if that is you, get in touch with JP. We want to get you on the channel, mate.
Yeah. But I think he's right. Like, we lost because we didn't finish our chances. We would have been fine. Oli Watkins looks shoddy. Right? He looks tired.
He got him out of my fantasy team today. I booted him.
That miss in the it was just like, wow. Because especially since what he did in the Euros. How good he was, how sharp he looked, and that when he made that finish when he came on.
Oh yeah, if he was in last season, we would have had 3 goals. But I'm stoked. I'm bummed about the result. Arsenal deserved the result. I think Arsenal don't have enough to win the title now after watching that game.
What are they missing?
They're missing a lock picker, because we sat deep several times around our 18, maybe 10 yards out from our 18 where they possessed, but they keep going wide to Saka. They keep going wide.
No, I think Odegaard is lock picker.
Odegaard next to KDB, Odegaard is the best lock picker in the league, dude.
Nothing could go up the middle.
That's because you guys are very good defensively.
Our defense. And
I think you nailed it earlier, man. I actually thought Villa were very fucking good in this game. But the one thing that Arsenal did in this game, and they didn't do it with you guys last year, and that's what cost them the title, is they took their chances. And if you want to go toe to toe, the problem is with City from January on, they flip a switch mentally, and they'll get like 2 or 3 chances in a game, and they'll score one. And that's what Arsenal need to do. They find and you know what they did? They found the goals against Villa in this game. I thought Villa were good. I thought Arsenal were good. But one team found the goals, and they were marginally better. I think you got to give Villa a lot of credit for that performance.
Yeah, I thought they played quite well. Again, especially the first half. I thought once Arsenal scored, like even just the build up to that goal, there was like 10 minutes before that, and they scored that goal, and then it was just Arsenal just were comfortable. Yeah, and I mean that's going to happen. It's a momentum game, right? Zaz, any thoughts on the match?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like, if you miss those 2 goals that Ollie Watkins misses at home,
you can't
win. You can't win the game, right? So kudos to Arsenal. They know how to find a way to win. I think for Arsenal, what must be terrifying is what they're looking up that they have to go up against again. You know, if this was like a normal
what that's like, Azaz. So
of course. And now they do. Now they do. Now they do 2 years running.
You guys had that scar tissue, and then you went and did it the next year. You have to wonder if that scar tissue is going to matter for them, because I think traditionally in sports history, losing like that in a tough manner, and they've had 2 seasons in a row where it's kind of been like that. You almost need to experience that to go to the next level. I wonder if it's gonna, and again, we can talk about this in August. Let's talk in January, February, where City go into City mode and we're just all fed up and they win like 10 games in a row and it's just automatic, that's when I think they capitulate mentally when they're up against it, where they're like, how does City just keep winning? And then they'll maybe drop points. I don't think it's a skill and depth thing with that team. That team's great. I think it's a mental thing at the back end of the year for them. I really do.
Yeah, I think it's just a mental thing to get over the line in that scenario. Like, it's really, really hard to win a league, but the Premier League especially.
Now
You have to have
against
something
them.
special about you. Pep is arguably that special thing. Arteta does seem to have a similar kind of mentality, but I don't know that he's quite there yet. I think he's young as a manager. I think he needs maybe a little longer, and I'm not sure Arsenal get over the line. I do think they're the team that's gonna push City. Arguably, there's not another team that's gonna in this league at the moment. But Arsenal getting the job done. Yeah, go ahead, Azaz. Sorry.
Can I just say one more thing? You know who deserves a bit of props is Trossard as a super sub. Like, he's coming on and making a difference to the level that, like, you get a bit more hyperbole usually than what he's getting. Like, you think down the years, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer or even Diego Jota for us, like, these guys who come on and make a difference week in, week out. He is that guy now, like he is coming on consistently making a difference. And for some reason, it's not like it's not sticking. Like, he's not a bona fide like star at the moment. And the other thing on the flip side is what's up with Martinelli? I don't know. I know we've got BX Gunner who's making some comments. Maybe he can fill us in. Like, I don't see the progress there, if I'm being totally honest
last
with you.
Year, he dropped off last year as well.
And this year again, I don't see it.
Yeah. So you just talked about Trossard being a super sub. It's funny you say that, because I think that left wing position should be his, because Martinelli's done this. And all the talk in the offseason was like, hey, he needs to get back going. Apparently he was not bad in preseason, but he was doing this in the first half of the season. And it was like, holy, this guy looks dominant. I think Trossard should be the starter when it comes to that team.
Yeah. Agreed.
And he's a finisher. He's a creator. Where Martinelli, it looks to be hot and cold, and very cold recently. So good shout out.
Yeah, for sure.
I do gotta say one thing before we jump on. If you guys haven't watched Morgan Rogers, man, he destroyed Arsenal's midfield several times in the game. He is going to be. I bet you he's in the England squad before the next summer. I think he is just going to be legit.
Is a midfielder for you guys?
Yeah, he plays it last year. We bought him in January. He played on the left side, and now he's playing like behind the striker in the 10 role. And he's like 6'2". He's from Man City's academy, and he is good. He is good.
Nice.
That's good for you. All right, Bournemouth, Newcastle. We're on to Sunday. A 1-1 draw here. Not a ton to talk about, other than maybe some of the moments that happened, especially at the end of that game. I think we'll start with you, JP, on that, because I know you want to talk about. Yeah, and I wanted to as well, because I was baffled that wasn't a red card. It just doesn't make any sense to me that guy didn't get sent off. Go ahead,
I think it's not Bruno. Who's the other center mid that they got going on, who used to be like a striker, and then they moved him into the center mid?
Joe Linton.
Linton. I think it was Linton who wrapped his arm around the goalkeeper's neck and
have you seen the clip
to the ground? Yeah, it was
not only should it have been a red, he should have supplementary discipline. Be suspended for 2 or 3. It's violent.
Yeah, that's like
100%. It was incredibly
American football, let alone the.
It was shocking. Man. I watched it on Twitter, and I was like,
and the coach actually got one of the coaches actually got the red card. Not
I couldn't
Linton.
believe it.
I was like because he was so pissed off about it. I'm like, what is happening here? Like, I don't understand how that isn't a red card.
That ref will be reffing in the championship next week. I can promise you that, because that.
If you think, right? Yeah, it was pretty ugly.
It was.
Can I bring something in about Newcastle here? Am I like? Were we all very much so in the same boat? Like, we all saw what happened with City when the money came in. Am I the only one? I know there's PSR stuff going. Am I the only one who's shocked that they have kind of done this? I thought they were going to go. I have expected more from them by now, and I just don't know where they're going, who they are. Like, they've got some very good players for sure. Where do you guys have Newcastle finishing, and like, what do you think of them right now? Like, I expected more.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I feel like I think the PSR thing is a big part of it. I think PSR came in heavily when they were bought, like the
Yeah.
season after, when you would expect them to go spend money, they weren't able to spend money. They were able to spend a little bit, but they had to deal with the fact that they couldn't overspend like City did. City were able to do that at a time
Yeah.
when none of that
Yeah.
stuff was even
It
being.
was the Wild
I mean,
West.
Chelsea as well. Yeah.
yeah, Chelsea, same thing, right? So they got away with it at the time, but now that isn't a thing anymore. You can't get away with it. So I think that's a problem. I also think the management at the top. We saw a couple of the people involved in buying the club.
They're gone
Stavely
now.
and I forget the other guy's name. They both have sold their shares. It was a percentage. It was a 5 to 6% or something. It was low, but it was still they were heavily involved in the purchase. So I watched the Newcastle documentary and all that stuff and how it happened. And I was surprised to see both of those people go because they were a big part of it. So when you lose, you're starting to see that happen. It's starting to fragment at the top. I think that kind of goes through the club a little bit. And I think maybe, I think they've stagnated quite a bit. And yeah, I see them probably like on the question of where they'll finish. I think they'll probably finish 7th. I would say.
You know what's
Seven,
weird though?
yeah.
We talked a little bit about Villa's squad, who I think is just got a great squad. We talked a lot about Spurs, who I think fantastic. I'm looking at their team right now. Outside of maybe Bruno, I like Anthony Gordon. Isaac's a good number 9. Very meh for me.
Yeah.
I'm telling you guys, if it was 8th or 9th, like I wouldn't be shocked if they finished where they like
Third. Sorry,
Liam's crazy. there.
Liam. What are you like? Get a grip, Liam. I don't see it with these guys, and I don't know if it's a buying players. I don't know if it's an ownership thing, but I'm just net. I'm not sold on Newcastle, and
Nah.
I wonder to go like a level deeper. I'm looking at a player like a Bruno or a Gordon, and I wonder if they say this summer.
What about Isak? I mean, Isak.
Yeah,
He's
this
gonna
isn't
be
the project
sought
we were
after.
sold, especially Bruno. Was it Liverpool or Arsenal that were linked with him? Like
All the
they've
big
got a
teams
couple of
were.
good players. Like I could see them jumping ship next year. Like Bruno starts for a lot of teams. Gordon, I think, was linked with Liverpool. I like him quite a bit.
Mhm.
I have question marks.
Trippier's not starting either. He was the captain, and he's not getting started in the league.
Apparently, he wants to move.
Bruno's
clubs.
He wants to
captain.
move.
Really?
33.
Didn't know
He
that.
is 33.
Yeah, he's 33, so it
Older.
makes sense. But it also shows a little bit about where they are, I think, as far
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
the squad and the sort of happiness behind the scenes.
I don't
Zaz,
know.
did you want to add something to that?
I was just gonna say, if you think about the Man City rise or even the Chelsea rise, more the Man City one, what was really interesting is they looked at a team like Arsenal and they were like, okay, so we want to go past Arsenal, so let's start taking their players. And they were taking like Adebayor, Bakary Sagna, Adebayor, Nasri. And if you look at Newcastle, like they take half of our players, they take half of Tottenham's players, they'd even take a bunch of Chelsea players, they definitely take Arsenal. And so anybody who finished above them last season, they would happily take, if it was a free market and they weren't regulated, they'd be buying all of those players. So that kind of gives a bit of an inkling as to where they are, because without doing that jump that City did, would they have ever gotten over that Arsenal hump? Because Arsenal used to batter City back in the Henri Vieira days. So City looked at Arsenal and were like, yeah, you little broers all the time. We're just going to buy your players. Newcastle would do that right now with all of those squads, but they just can't. So that kind of gives a inkling to me as to like, they're behind those projects squad-wise,
Well,
sure.
that PSR is holding them back, but it's also holding a team like.
Oh, dude, he's freezing
We
again.
know what was coming.
players.
Gotta get that internet
There needs
fixed,
to be
man.
some changes because like,
JP, you got frozen there, so we missed your point, brother.
But we know what you were going to say.
We do know.
Okay, cool.
All right, well let's get on to the next one here. Just let me get the brand stuff going here.
Maybe it's the new laptop.
All right, this was obviously a big game, but big score lines here. Wolves 2, Chelsea 6. Madueke with a hat trick in 16 minutes, which it was impressive hat trick. I mean, but also to if you watch every one of those goals, there was no left back, there was no
Oh,
defending on
man.
that side
Yeah.
of the pitch. Wolves were an absolute mess. Like, and to be fair to Chelsea, like, give them to credit they deserve. They made them Wolves a bit messy, and they look good. Like Chelsea looked good, and they finished their chances. But man, I have not seen a team that open on one side of the pitch. Especially after he scored 2 of them, they just keep doing it. Here you go. JP, we'll start with you on this, and hopefully you don't cut out when your opinion on it. But your thoughts on Wolves and Chelsea?
Well, I don't like Chelsea. It's no secret. I think they're ass.
No.
they're
That's the
rotten,
understatement
rotten.
of life.
It's not like, hold up. The quality of player there is amazing. The quality of player is really high. The coaching, I don't think, is top class. I don't think the coach is even in the top 5 of the Premier League. And
He's
I
managed
think
2 games in the Premier League.
Yeah,
Jim.
how do you know?
You
It's
can't
too
really
soon.
say that.
it's pretty young. But for me, like, this was a team that finally clicked against a team that finally imploded. And it'll be really interesting to see what Chelsea do against normal top 5, top 6 teams. And we'll see what's going on. But I think they're going to buy like 19 strikers and figure out which one works. And then they're going to be great.
Interestingly, Madueke is a Spurs product, came through our academy, and
Is
we sold him to Chelsea. Yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's disappointing because
PSV,
we just went and got a winger, and he's like really good winger. But anyway, go on. Zaz, you want to add something?
Yeah, you sold him to PSV, and then PSV eventually
correct.
ended up
Yeah,
selling
that's
him
correct.
back to Chelsea.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And he was he at Arsenal as well?
I think they were maybe when he was really young before he came to Spurs. I think he might have been there. Yeah, he's done the rounds a little bit, but
it was another London team. I don't know why Arsenal's coming to my mind. I rate him, actually. And to JP's point, they've got some pretty good players. I don't think today is the exact, like today doesn't give a real impression. I thought Wolves were terrible today. So credit to any team who wins 6-2. You got to still stick the 6 goals in. And obviously, we've spoken at nauseum about how bad their finishing is, and so credit where it's due. But like, today wasn't the game where I'm going to look at that and be like, Chelsea are going to be a problem.
Yeah, it doesn't change my opinion of them at all.
But they were great today. Yeah,
and good for Eric. He's gone through some stuff lately in life, so I was happy for him.
2 things sometimes need to happen.
Even though it's Chelsea, I was still happy.
You got to take your chances, but like 2 things, like Chelsea could have been good today, but Wolves were terrible. Like if Wolves played well and they won 6-2, you'd be like, oh man, who's this Chelsea? But don't get me wrong, some really nice goals, but Brian nailed some bad defending. But
atrocious defending.
Cole Palmer, like I think, like as a very quick aside, whoever takes over this England job, and I'm not a big international football, but I think a changing of the guard from Southgate's old team to the new younger players needs to, like, this guy is just a treat on the ball. Everyone's talking about Madueke's hat trick. Cole Palmer assisted on all of them.
All
they
3
were
of
good
them,
finishes.
Yeah.
But
they weren't hard assists. They
gave up 2 goals, guys, and they probably could have given up a couple more. So from an entertainment standpoint, it's great. I do want to make a comment on the manager. I like his comments in the media about how ruthless he's being about these players. These guys that want to stick around and collect wages when they're not in the plans, that's not how life works. If you're not in the plans, either find another club or you can rot away in the reserves, but that's not going to help your career. It's not. There's got to be a balance of both. If I'm the Chelsea coach, I'm not having Sterling anywhere near my team. He says he wanted a certain type of winger. He's got Madueke. He's got Felix now. He's got Neto. They brought in Neto and Felix, who both looked good. I know it was Wolves, but I rate both of those players. There's guys that are surplus to requirements, and we saw it at Spurs. We're seeing it United. If you're not in the plans, and we've seen it at United, Aaron, you got to make other plans. And I think we need to talk about this a little bit. You can't just assume I signed a 3-year contract, I'm going to be here and play. If you can't make other plans, the manager will have his group of players that he wants to work with. You can be over there. We'll be respectful and professional about it, but that's how life works. You go get hired at a job. You need to perform at that job. If you don't perform at that job, you might not have.
Off you go. Yeah, you don't get wages there anymore either.
No,
they just
and
fire you.
No one ever said anything over the years when Pep says, "Well, he's not Calvin Phillips. I don't know. He's not going to work here. Whoever else, get out of here." It's got to be a little bit more. Get out of here. I'm trying to build my own thing. I like this about this coach at Chelsea. I like when he's being ruthless. He made a couple of comments the other day about Mudryk, and he nailed it. He's like, the guy makes terrible decisions. He does. Let's start
Spot
being a little
on.
bit more honest and transparent.
Yeah, yeah.
I like him.
Yeah, I agree. JP's been shaking his head over there, and he's dying to
Yeah,
respond. So
what do you
JP,
how can you disagree
yeah,
with
what's to disagree with there?
I'm
Because
not,
I agree
I'm
with
not
Connie.
disagreeing that the coach is saying the right things. You're a coach. You're supposed to say the right things. I think he's been told these players need to go because they need room. Players don't have to leave. They were signed to a
Go
contract
play with the
a certain
reserves
amount.
for the years, and then the
They have
rest
to
of your
leave for
career is
their
done.
career purpose, though.
We've
That's,
seen it, but we've seen guys do this.
yeah, but doesn't make it
It's
right.
happened at all of our clubs where a player gets a nice 100, 120, 140 grand a week, and then they sit there and they do nothing until you literally have to pay them out of their contract. This happens all the time. But the problem is at our clubs, it's 3 or 4 guys. It's not 20.
No, but I
And-
think what's
and that's
happening. Hold on. I want
insane.
to pause here. I think you're right to a certain extent, but I think what he's trying to say, and you're right, it's an inflated number of
It's
players
a
there.
massive amount of
I
people.
think what he is saying is, I don't give a fuck.
Oh,
If there's 20 of you over here, and I don't think it's the board. I do think it's him, but we won't really know the answer. We can like sit
We'll
here and
never
be
know
like,
the
oh, I
answer,
think it's him.
right?
We don't know. But let's say it is him or the board, whatever. I think the attitude of you guys are over here, you're not in my group. You can stay here and collect your paycheck. Like Sterling's got what, 3 more years of 300. I'd fucking sit on the bench for 3
Yeah.
years for 300. Like no one else. Where it gets complicated is who's going to pay him that unless he goes to Saudi. But then are you effectively saying, hey, I'm going to sit here and do nothing for 3 years and my career's over? That's a choice, but they have to make it. I like that he's saying, you guys are over here, my group's here. I like that. That's the way it should be.
Yeah, it's a tough thing to do with such an inflated squad, and you kind of have to make difficult decisions as a manager in that situation. And I think,
Yeah.
despite it seeming harsh to some extent, which it does probably for some of those players, they're like, "What the hell? I thought I was part of this project. You guys brought me in, blah blah blah."
Yeah.
And now this is the case. But new manager comes in. New manager's got to have a squad 24, 25 guys. That's the squad. He can't have 40. So some people are going to get left out. He's going to pick the ones that suit what he wants to do, and the other guys got to go. And that's where they're at. It sucks for them. It sucks because Chelsea have done this. They've inflated their squad so much that they're in this situation. But
Yeah.
I think from a manager perspective, it's correct.
Manager's
like how
doing
cutthroat he
everything
is.
right. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong about the manager. But if you spent almost $2 billion on players in the last 2.5 years, you better fucking have 11 of them that can beat Wolves. Are you
Which they
kidding me?
do. They have
which
a
they
bunch
did.
of offense.
They did.
but
They did.
hold on a
So
second.
it's like, is it really that big of a deal? You spent $2 billion. That's insane.
You got the club over here, and you got a new manager with his players over here. I know in some ways they're very, very related. I'm trying to separate the two and say, hey, he's got his players. It's kind of like Pep, and I always go back to this. Pep's got his group. They've had their budget. Like you could talk about these 115 charges, and I'm sure we will, and everybody else does. But even regardless of that, you look at their recruitment and their performance on the pitch. You can never deny it. It
helps when you can
the best
recruit and pay them
football
under the table.
It's the best football you'll ever see in the Premier League up until now, period. And there's no denying that. And that's with him and the players. There's a bunch of shit going on. And JP, you're right. There's a bunch of that shit going on at Chelsea. I do like that he's trying to separate himself from that and say, I got my group of guys. This is who I want to work with.
It's what he had to do, and it's actually,
Yeah.
arguably,
cutthroat.
Poch probably got that wrong a little bit. Had he done
I
something
agree.
like that, I mean, he kind of did a little bit, but then they've spent more money this summer. But yeah,
There's
I think
only 2 teams in the Premier League in the last 7 years where I looked at the teams and I said, well, you know what? I don't give a fuck what the team does. It's the manager's team, and it's Manchester City, and it's Liverpool, and it's Pep and it's Klopp. And you need personalities. JP, he's showing personality, and I love it.
Yeah.
Like when Ainge shows the personality,
yeah, Ainge is
he
doing
calls
the
out
same
this
thing,
and
so-
this.
yeah.
Yeah, you need that. And you know what? You don't see that? Fucking Manchester United. So I respect it and I like it. And I think sometimes you got to separate. JP's still right. The club's a disaster, and we'll see what happens with the legal side. But I think the football, I mean, let's see. It's kind of like
I think
Spurs
he's
and
going to
some-
get him playing. I still think they're going to struggle a little bit up top with who they're relying on.
But they'll be better than I think they'll be
and
much
their
better than
defense is a-
last year.
Yeah, agreed. Their defense,
Yeah.
their defense is a little bit of a
Little
shit show as well. All right, well, let's. We got one more game left, and this is the one that Azaz has been waiting for. Liverpool 2, Brentford 0. Azaz, we'll start with you on this. Thoughts on your performance today? How are you feeling about it?
So far, so good. I'm not going to start planning any title parades or anything. Like, I don't think it's 2 games into the manager's career. But at the same time, you have like the banana skin last week, which was early game, newly promoted team, highly pumped. They really want to get that scalp and get their league started, and we handled that. And then today, pressure of the home game. Anfield was such a fortress for Klopp. So again, could be one of those things where the pressure gets to Slot or the players, like something goes wrong. And we've actually not conceded a goal yet. And in both of the two games last season and the season before, we would probably have been 1-0 down. We probably would have won them both still because we did that a lot. But yeah, 2-2-0s, one home, one away. I can see already some of the like total football, the Dutch style of football that he wants to bring. I can already see that. It'll take months and matches to implement. I'm happy. Next week is a really big test because even at our best, Old Trafford is always hard for us, just like Anfield is always hard for United. I think that if we come through that test, then there's the international break. I think that's going to be a really big shot in the arm. And I'm not going to say we're going to contend for the title. I think that obviously the top two in this league at the moment is Man City and Arsenal. But what I will say is the year after Arsenal came fifth, they made themselves contenders by just like taking it week by week, week by week, and stacking up those 3 points. And I kind of feel like that is on the table for a few teams, including Liverpool, Tottenham. There's a couple of teams there who could just like mount a random title challenge that they're not supposed to. Not all the way till April or March. I'm just saying in 2022, 2023, Arsenal were fifth. They bought Jesus and Zinchenko. That doesn't suddenly make you a championship contender, but they became a title contender just by navigating things week by week, week by week.
And it was
picking
a
up the 3
long
points.
time as well. Like,
Yeah.
like you stick with a manager, a good manager that has the character to build a team in his own image, and then eventually you get to the point where you want to be. And I think that's what we're seeing with a few teams for sure. I think it's Villa's an example, Spurs, Liverpool. For sure.
I have some questions.
The only last thing,
not Man United. Sorry, Dave.
Sorry. The last thing I want to say is, shout out to Mo Salah, man. What on earth are we watching right now? Like it's like the 8th season now, and
not slowing down.
He's not slowing down.
Physically,
2 goals in
like
2 games. No, and Liverpool all look a bit leaner as well. By the way, like
I want to talk about this.
Yeah.
So I watched them today. And I'm struggling to see what's different about them, which I think is a compliment. Whereas the one thing I tried to really watch it very closely because I'm trying to determine. Like part of me wonders if he came in and said, "Let's just keep it the same," and maybe the one thing I did notice, but they were like this under Klopp. The defenders, when they get above center, they get back very quick. I thought they defended well.
The whole team I noticed doing that.
But they did that under Klopp. What I want to know from you is because I still can't see it. What are the differences, even if they're very minor or minute, that you are seeing? Because you would have a different lens than the three of us. I can't see, which I think is a very good thing.
Yeah. So firstly, formation system-wise, there is a slight tweak. It was so it used to be always like a Fabinho in the hole or Endo in the hole with 2 8s. It has flipped now, so there's 2 at the base, and Szoboszlai's playing like a 8-10 kind of role.
Good too.
So that's the formation change. The big difference is the number of touches to get to a scoring opportunity. So Klopp ball was very direct. I'm not saying we were playing bad football, but it was like still more rock and roll football. And where we would sometimes struggle was in that low block situation. Infamously, we would struggle sometimes in that low block situation. This team is slightly playing more technical football. So there's like there's a move where, again, Klopp's players probably would have shot like twice and it would have been blocked and maybe it would have gone in, who knows? But like we just tried another pass and like it looked really good on the eye as well. So minor changes at the moment.
The formation's a little different. The 4-3-3
Yeah.
is what 4-2-4-2-3-1.
Yeah.
I would say now.
4-2-3-1. Yeah,
There's a little
yeah,
bit more
yeah.
up top and a little bit more like anchored with the pivot. So that I've noticed that a little bit. I was watching the game today, and
Yeah.
Van
Okay,
Dyke
yeah,
was
yeah.
interviewed, and he says that one of the main differences is he's crazy on details, like
Right.
on working with the defensive unit and the attacking unit. Like he literally gets in the weeds with all of them about like what he wants. So like the whole talk was like, how are you going to take over? Apparently he's come in heavy in a sense and like just implemented, like he has a style he wants to play. And apparently the players are adapting to it and liking him. Like I thought they looked really like there was a comment that this gentleman made about Brentford not playing well. I actually thought in moments Brentford played really well and
Brentford had
defended
some
well.
moments. There was points where they looked
I
like
didn't
they were
think they were bad.
dominating the game a little bit.
I
Yeah.
just thought the class came through,
Yeah.
and that tempo that which they play with, and then the attack. And I thought Diaz and Jota were good today, and we said it all show. You looked at the bench options. There's some good bench options. So, like some of the comments have been like, Liverpool haven't bought anyone this year. I think they just bought a kid last week. But like, and this is a question I think I asked Zaz, and I said, who do they need to buy? Like your fan base says you need a number 6. I don't really think you do.
Yeah.
Like I don't think
Yeah,
you guys
who's the
need to
kid
buy
that was
anyone.
playing in there? What's his name? That was in
Endo?
your
Gravenberch.
That's one. He
Gravenberch. Yeah.
I like Endo
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
Endo
Yeah,
not
so-
getting the starts. Gravenberch. Tell us a little bit about him and
Yeah.
what
Yeah. So, I like it. I like it. Like I always like when managers find solutions within the squad. I think the most infamous one, the most famous one, I guess I should say, not infamous. The most famous one is Andrea Pirlo was a number 10, like a classic number
Yeah.
10, and he was in a squad stacked, AC Milan squad stacked with Kaká, Seedorf, all these other number 10s. And Ancelotti, Don Carlo said, you know what, I'm going to play you as a deep line playmaker. And he became perhaps the best deep line playmaker of the 2000s, so you don't have to play in the position. This has been discussed about Trent, that you can't play in a number 6 later. Yeah, most of the time you can't, and I'm not saying Trent can or can't. We're not talking about Trent, but Andrea Pirlo did. At no point in his youth career or early professional career was Andrea Pirlo like a deep lying 6 playmaker, and that's what he became. Gravenberch has the potential to do that because he's got the attributes to do it. He's still got to learn a lot, and obviously the fact that we're at Old Trafford next week without a recognized 6 is a little bit of a liability, for want of a better term. Like if we had Zubamendi in there sat next to McAllister, that is quality. Like if we had Zubamendi and McAllister, they both won the Euro and Copa this summer.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? You'd be like, oh wow, like what a midfield. That ain't Gravenberch. This is like a 8 being converted into a number 6, but he's got the attributes to do it, and I like it. Yeah, the Regista,
Really?
like BX Gunner is saying, I like it. I really like it. Yeah.
On him. I actually watched it
Yeah,
today, and
fair
I'm
enough.
still trying to
Yeah.
You know who doesn't get talked about and is just a treat is McAllister.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
he
Oh,
just
yeah.
great player.
doesn't do anything wrong, and his tempo and getting the ball moving he is a real I just think even having Endo on the bench, it's that depth thing we talk about, right? Like Zubamendi would have been I questioned Zubamendi when you would have played in Arsenal or a City and in the physicality for the league, because I know, like in the games that I did watch him, not the strongest guy. Gravenberch is strong, and he's strong on the ball.
He's a
So
big
is
fella too, isn't
McAllister.
he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know that they necessarily need anyone. I think if they can get the attack clicking with Jota, I like him in that false 9. And we talked about this earlier in our chat. If Diaz can get going, you've got those attacking options off the bench with a little bit more tiki-taka. I mean, I just don't see any other team not pushing like that top 2, top 3 other than Liverpool. I thought they looked great today. I'm not looking forward to next week at all. I'm going to be in
I am.
Portugal.
That's going
I
to
don't
be
even
fun
know
to
if I
watch.
want to watch the game.
JP, anything to
Fuck
add
you.
before we call it a day?
I was really worried about Liverpool with the new manager because I kind of saw like how when Arsenal got rid of Arteta, not Arteta, Wenger, it took a few years to restabilize. I'm not seeing that, and that counterattack, I think it was the second goal, was unreal.
Oh, yeah.
Like the pass that he like played so early is so hard to see. Like, oh my God, my runner's coming across me. As soon as he made that step across in front of him, he played that ball and it was perfectly weighted. It was the perfect play. It was a great counterattack, and honestly, it was magical to watch. I love those quick counterattack goal type setups. I'm actually getting a little worried about Liverpool. I thought they were going to be like struggling to get top 4, but I don't think so anymore. I think they're going to be pushing for top 3.
We talk about how important Haaland is to City. Mo is equally, if not more important to Liverpool. He
100%.
is, at this age, still so physically dominant and quick, and his footwork is he is, if you ever come across anyone putting an all-time Premier League team together and he's not on your right wing, stop taking them seriously within seconds and walk away from the conversation. He is, I don't throw it around. He's generational, and he's an absolute. It's Liverpool. I hate them. I like football, and I respect it. He's a goddamn treat to watch, and man, this league will be worse off when he's not in it. He's that good.
Yeah, agreed. It's great weekend of football, guys. Been good to chat with you guys again. We've got some new subscribers, so for the people in the chat who've been here with us today, fantastic for being here. Make sure you smash that.
No matter who you are, dude.
Smash that like button, hit the subscribe.
We need you.
We're a growing channel. We're here every Sunday for the Sunday roast at 8:00. Sometimes 9. It might change the time, but it's going to be Sunday evenings, either 8 or 9 o'clock. So make sure you tune in and watch us. Connie, JP, California, Azaz, been a pleasure, guys. Thank you for watching, guys. We'll see you next time. Cheers.
Take care.
This is the North End.